All right, folks, welcome back. Chief Kirk for Kravology. Last week we talked about the redirection of the handgun behind the elbow. This week I want to talk to you about soft knees. I want to talk you through and walk you through drills that we use to help people understand specifically what soft knees are, what soft knees are used for in Krav Maga, and how to understand when they're at the point that soft knees have done their job or the bend of the knee has done its job. So we're going to go through that today. We're going to talk a little bit about the angle of entry with handgun behind the elbow. And I think overall you're going to leave this video with powerful concepts that will really help you improve your technique when the handgun is behind, in this case, your left elbow. We're building off of last week's video. We're going to do a drill with you first. It's a pretty fun drill. I think Trey really likes it. It's his favorite drill. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to put our feet shoulder width apart. We're going to pull our toes up in top of our shoes. We're going to stack our platforms so we feel the weight firmly in our heels. And what we're going to do is we're going to begin to bend our knees. We call this drill or this exercise soft knees. So as I begin to stay sort of stacked and I begin to bend my knees slowly, I'll get to the point right there where, are you there? Good? You don't have to bend as much as I do. I'll get to the point where the weight has now pitched into the balls of my feet. So if I turn sideways for you, I'm in this position, right? So what I'm discovering and exploring is how soft do my knees need to be to move the weight from my heels into the balls of my feet where I can now move, burst, and otherwise directionally sort of steer my body. That's important because oftentimes in a defense, even in training, we find ourselves lock-legged. And so the trainee, the student, has to understand how to get the weight in the feet properly and at what point to allow him or her to move in powerfully without telegraphing. And to move in powerfully while being efficient, so not shifting back and forth, which wastes time. So the context last week is the gun is at the back of my elbow here on the left side. I make a redirection like we did last week. I'm running my hand across my pocket. As I make the redirection, I leave the line of fire. My shoulder will look. We talked about this last week. When my shoulder looks, I will make my knees soft. When I make my knees soft, I feel about a 60-40 or 70-30 weight difference in my left foot. So I use my shoulder lean and I use my hip flexor to lift and drive in, dumping the weight into the right foot, the back foot. So again, last week, redirection. Last week, deploy your thumb, concentrational pressure, let your right shoulder look in. As your right shoulder looks in, soften your knees. As you feel weight dumping in your left foot, lift with your hip flexor and drive in to make the elbow. I want to give you a negative demonstration because I think this is powerful to help you see what typically happens. We do something like this. Even if we get the rest of it right and we look this way, our knees aren't bent well. And what we do as students and as creatures with arms and legs is we shift back and then push in. So you can actually see I'm making a redirection. I'm going in. I'm coming back. I'm going in again. Anytime you see that, you should stop, either with your own video or you're working with students or you're working with a partner in class. You should stop and ask yourself a very important question. Is it healthy? Is it effective? Is it efficient? Is it productive for me to move in, shift back, and move in again? And I think the answer is obviously no. The way to deal with locked legs and shifting in is to soften your knees. You can do this gun front, you can do this gun behind the elbow. So here we are. Last week, 1, 2, soften the knees, lift the hip flexor, drive in, make the elbow. Next week we'll talk a little bit about control position and what our hand is doing, what concentrational pressure means, and how I use the thumb to guide myself in. For this week, remember, I soften my knees, I lift with the hip flexor, I drive in on the angle I set up by looking with my right shoulder. I hope that's not too confusing. Any comments? Want to do anything like that? Yeah, good. All right, so thanks for sticking with me today. Remember, when you're dealing with handgun from behind the left elbow, the redirection is obviously important, lining up is important, but if you don't make your knees soft and understand how to work that equation into your defenses, if you don't do that, you're invariably going to make a mistake. You're going to take on way more risk than you need to in performing the technique. Try it. I know it's going to work for you. Also, drop down, send us questions in the box below. We're happy to answer the questions. Oftentimes they become the subject of the videos we do in the weeks to come. And as always, walk in peace.